In Hawaii, I became an official court reporter, but in Hawaii, I had an enlightenment experience on the island of Kauai because beauty heals. And I ended up feeling, had this sense of what is it that I was meant to do on the planet. There was this saying that said, this sense that I had, I did not put you on planet Earth to be a party girl. You have a job to do. And I went looking for that job. I went to my first human potential movement training. There were top 5 companies. I did that one. That was one of the best, the most popular, the most well-known. I had another epiphany besides my beautiful spiritual awakening, which was that I had control over nothing. And the only thing I had control over was my consciousness.
This podcast isn't just another conversation. It's a standard. This show is about cultivating an unshakable mindset, mastering focus, and gaining the clarity needed to lead with conviction. To go beyond this episode, visit the Prime 40 website for tools and insights built for growth. I'm Jack Lima. Welcome to the Jack Lima Podcast. Thank you for joining us and being a guest on our show. And, looking at your profile on LinkedIn, you've been around a long time and have a lot of graduates from your classes in a lot of countries. And
yes,
wanted to get my readers to kind of like get to know you a little bit because you seem like you have a lot to offer. And I would like to kind of, talk things out and see where this progressed, this interview, and see what you can share with my readers and listeners. And obviously, being the OG of entrepreneurship and transformational training is always a positive to have in anybody's corner.
The thing is that I have a very interesting background because I come from the legal system. I was in the legal system as a court reporter, as an interpreter very young and all of that. And then I had a transformational experience, began to look for something that I didn't know what it was at the time. And then, so I have this whole spiritual side, and I was reading about you, and so it was like, okay, so what would you like? So I am actually a student. I've been working on myself 50 years. This is without surgery and no injectables. So this is I'm 76, but I have the energy. I do have to take a lot of naps and I do get tired at times, but nothing compared to other 76-year-olds.
No, not at all.
I'm a student of, I quit drinking when I was 38. I quit doing caffeine at 36 years old. I stopped eating meat at 30 years old. So I learned in my 30s, if I wanted to have a long life, that I couldn't do all the stuff that I loved. I was a kid of the 70s, so we party hardy, having party hardy since the 70s. So I have that story, but I also have the part where I had we can talk about it too during the interview, but then I have this whole thing about having been there at the beginning of the training industry as we know it today. So I know all the big boys and girls. I'm one of the OG in the training industry. I'm the only woman that has lived this long, and healthy. The other women leaders, only one other, I'll think of her name in a minute. She and I have a lot of energy, and we have about the same time, but she was a preacher. We have a very different life. But the rest of the women in my industry either got dementia or died or whatever. And so I'm kind of like, and I'm on my way out to just do philanthropy. So I can take it any way you want. So if you wanted to be like how to combine and how to have conscious business, we can do that. Or if you just want to talk about consciousness or you want to talk about business, I am in rooms sometimes that, especially in the Asia Pacific region, they bring me in because a lot of our graduates have big companies and they love me and they love our work. So they bring me in with their super zillionaire heads of industry. And then we talk about trends and business, world affairs. So I am a real big buffet. So you let me know and you just take me. I just wanted to tell you the different directions that we could go.
Yeah, I love my niche is fitness and health and spirituality, right? So what I try to focus on when I bring guests on is that we align, whether it's in fitness or health or managing people, whatever it may be. But I think you'll be a great resource when it comes to um, the mindset, when it comes to putting yourself in the right mindset of what truth people don't want to hear but need to hear, right? Um, a lot of people don't want to hear the truth, right? Because they feel once
Yes,
they see
yes.
the truth, they have to either address it or ignore it. And people rather not ask the question. So, what's the truth people don't want to hear, but they need to hear, in your opinion?
Well, one thing that they need to know that a lot of the people that are the health industry, the the people that are teaching people how to make money, how to do real estate, they've done a lot of work on themselves, but they don't talk about it. And that is a peeve that I have. So when Kiyosaki, my old business partner, when he leaves this world, I'm going to write a book which is called The 17 Years That Kiyosaki Didn't Tell You About. And that is how much he worked on himself. So then it looks like it's all about just real estate and the deal, the art of the deal, and the deal this and the deal that, without realizing all the work that they did on themselves, or they have partners like myself that guides them and tells them what direction to go. Of course, once Robert and Kim and I stopped being business partners back 30 years ago, um, he went on a very strange direction, and we're very different people. But but during the time that he was around us for those 17 years, there were so many things that were not told to the public, and I truly believe that, and I have so many people seeing them come and go, and part of them is for them not being authentic or real about what really got them there. And then people follow them, learn from them, they get duped into buying all these things, and it's not what really happened. And they know intuitively. So that would be something we could talk about.
Yeah, it's true. So you said you met Tony Robbins or mentored
He
him
got me
before you
started.
got him started. Was he always like that, or is that something that he
Yes.
had built up?
He was always a rock star, and told I personally did not mentor him. I was only 33, he was 23. But I did guide him, and I did develop and work around him and he learned a lot about logistics. We have beautiful stories that we can tell about that. And my mentor, who created the work that I do, he truly mentored him in the sense of mentorship, right? When we talk about mentorship. And but I did make sure that he had the right people and guided him in a way that his first economic engine was, and the power of the network, the power of having people behind you, all of that, yes. And he loves me very much, and he remembers me very much. So Tony has always been a rock star.
Yeah. So you've been at this game a very long time, Doria,
Yes.
and you've seen things, and you probably forgot things more than I know. But what I would ask you this: you were extremely successful, but what did it cost you personally to become so successful?
It didn't cost me. No, it didn't cost me. My living in hell for 8 years happened before I got into this industry. I'm assuming that we're already in the interview now?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. So basically, I grew up, I have to give a little bit of history about this. So I grew up in Chile. I was brought to the United States when I was 12 years old in 1962, when America had a calling for immigrants. My mother had married my stepfather, who was a wonderful man and had lost all of his family's money. And so he decided to come to the United States to get rich, and he did, and others around me also did. And because they already had that mindset of wealth, and they already understood entrepreneurship. So I grew up around a group of immigrants that would be busboys and waiters, or or have what could be considered in the old days menial jobs. But on the weekends, they were talking about entrepreneurship, how to build businesses, how to save, how to create wealth, and how to be successful. And I was 12, 13, 14 years old, and I was listening to all of that. I was the only girl in there that was allowed to just listen because I wanted to hear it. Everybody else would get bored. So without realizing, I already had entrepreneurial roots, not only from them, but from my mother and my auntie, who were entrepreneurial in the 50s in Chile by owning a beauty salon. And I have done everything backwards. So people, they will publish a book and become famous or wealthy or build an economic engine. I did the opposite. I first grew a business and an organization as I'm stepping out, going from just profitable business and building economic engines. Now I write the book, and this particular book has pictures of my mother and auntie when they were young. When my auntie was young, Mama was just about 10 years ago. And there I talk about my entrepreneurial tools and how my mother and auntie intuitively know what we teach in our Money and You program. So I have those roots. I grew up in California, in Los Angeles. And when I was 18, I had a tragedy. And a month before we were going to be married, my beloved was killed. And it was more like a suicide thing because he was taking a lot of drugs. It was 1968, and that's what a lot of young people did. I didn't like it, but he did. He was killed in a car accident. And without knowing it yet, I miscarried his baby on his birthday 4 months after he died. Now, I shut completely down. I completely shut down everything, all my emotions, and I became a workaholic. So I was going to college, had jobs, did many things, and that then for the next 8 years, it was the worst 8 years of my life because I was so out of touch with my heart, which I had always had an open heart. I was a beautiful young girl, beautiful child, and my heart shut down. We had, as a group, 14 friends die in 3 years. I had a second miscarriage, and Vietnam War, and all these things were happening. So I went into the criminal court system as a court reporter and as an interpreter first, and then an official court reporter, and I was going to grow up to be an attorney. But I worked in the criminal court system, which every single day you see atrocities. And everything was like hellish because a judge would say, you're responsible, you're responsible. So I ran away to Hawaii. And in Hawaii, I became an official court reporter. But in Hawaii, I had an enlightenment experience on the island of Kauai because beauty heals. And I ended up had this sense of what is it that I was meant to do on the planet. There was this saying that said, this sense that I had, I did not put you on planet Earth to be a party girl. You have a job to do. And I went looking for that job. I went to my first human potential movement training, EST. There were top 5 companies. I did that one. That was one of the best, the most popular, the most well-known. I had another epiphany besides my beautiful spiritual awakening, which was that I had control over nothing. And the only thing I had control over was my consciousness. So I went looking. I was still an official. I was still I was a very successful court reporter. So during the day, I was watching all these unconscious legal maneuvering and attorneys and all the stuff that people do in the background in that field. And at night, I would be working on myself and eradicating poverty and hunger. Because when I met Buckminster Fuller, I got the opportunity to see, and I knew this was true, that by the early 70s, there was enough food, enough water, enough electricity for everyone on planet Earth. to have sufficiency, to not have poverty, to not have hunger. And my heart just, wow. I knew that, not very clearly, but there was a sense that was my new job. And then within a year, I met the people, Marshall Thurber and Bobby DePorter, who created the first business school for entrepreneurs of its kind. I was one of their best students. I learned really well through a series of circumstances. I ended up volunteering, becoming a partner. And by 1979, when I was 29 years old, I started running the company that now we have 4 different reiterations of the businesses, which I built. And that's what I've been doing for 47 years.
Wow.
I suffered before getting into this industry. But once I got here and I saw that the answer to many of today's problems is the lack of communication, is the world that we live that is filled with scarcity, and more than anything else, the lack of education, of money, of business, of entrepreneurship, and the lack of clarity and education for people to understand their own emotional intelligence, how to clear themselves, how to build self-mastery. But now, there's a whole thing happening where people, like back in the 70s, there's an awakening happening with people wanting to be coached, wanting to know more about themselves. Now it's becoming in vogue 50 years later, but it has a little twist to it, which I'm not happy with. And that before I just leave for philanthropy when I turn 80 on November 14, 2029, I want to set up, particularly in North America, a company that will be bringing programs and whatever technology is available to start really waking people up to their own potential. So that's the history.
So, wow, that's very impressive. I would ask you this then. So when life gets hard now, what grounds you? Is it family? Is it faith? Is it your past? What grounds you? If something terrible were to happen, what's your go-to?
I go within. I already have set up all around me financial independence. I have a beautiful life partner who is mega intelligent, understands technology. He's an AI expert. He's the guy I go to. You had an opportunity to meet him a little earlier. He makes my life so easy. I have a 100-year-old mama that's going to be 101 in mid-June who has dementia, the only person in my life, in our family that has dementia. So watching her and being with her, being like an enlightened human being, because she only has present time. She has no past, she has no future, and she's full of love. That is my greatest source of inspiration. And what gets me down, because I've already created economic engines that will handle my life for the rest of my life and more. What gets me down, and please forgive me for saying this, the stupidity of so many people that are listen and hear and believe without checking anything, without looking at the facts, or they twist the facts. Oh, those are not facts. These are the facts. And I'm like, where did you get those facts? Oh, well, I heard about it in this blog. I heard about it from so-and-so. Now, did you go and read all the background information? It's like, did you go, if you're going to be repeating that information, do you mind at least going deeply into that? And so all of that has gone out the window. So then now people don't trust, they don't want to believe anything. That really causes me pain. That is something that, and then I have to, since Tony Robbins is one of our biggest rock star graduates of Money and You and taught at our business school, I go to some of the technology that he teaches, changing my state, and taking a look at, how I can transform that particular thought or belief at that moment. But then I go a little bit deeper, which is in the spiritual grounding that I have from having grown up in a very beautiful environment, but also the the studies that I've done of the different religions and my own relationship with nature and with the Great Spirit. So it's like we're holistic. It's like we are a big wheel with all these spokes, and the Great Spirit is the middle, right? And it kind of holds together the spokes. And then my life is like the big wheel, right? It's the wheel itself. The rubber, if you can think about it, the one that hits the road.
Yeah.
So we are so multidimensional. We are so much more than the mind and the brain has us believe we are. So being connected to consciousness, being connected to the multiverses and all the ways that we really are, then that brings in a level of intelligence that makes you really go and check things and really go and study things and then repeat those things. And when you read my book, and I have to tell you, you can get this for this one, not the hardcover, is $50. That's worth it because it's gorgeous. But you can get the audio for $15. You can get the Kindle for $10. Just go to Amazon and put Doria money and you'll get to it. I really want people to 3 volumes. I really want people to read this because they will start getting the history of conscious entrepreneurship, of conscious business. And I speak, and when you read the book, I actually say, if this is not correct, can you please email me and tell me what is correct? Because I don't dare to say that I am the expert in this one area at a time when things are changing so quickly. So being a lifelong learner is a way to live a well-lived life with intelligence and with facts. So that's something that how do I center myself? Is by finding out what's really happening with proof, with science, with what really has been studied. Not just hate Bill Gates because a bunch of people hate Bill Gates. It's like, what is this whole thing? Why does everybody hate Bill Gates? Oh, he wants to do this and that. And it was so interesting. I saw him being interviewed, and he was really funny in this one interview because Bill Gates is usually not funny. And he was being interviewed by somebody really wonderful. And Bill Gates goes, why would I want to have your personal information? Why? It's like, and he was being really real because he gets accused all the time of wanting to control and everything. And it was like so authentic. And I get it. He does all kinds of stuff that a lot of people don't agree with. I'm not a fan. I admire the guy. I mean, he's incredible. He has put a lot of technology on. I'm not a fan of Elon Musk, but oh my God, because he put a lot of stuff on the planet. So it's like really like being able to, but who do I adore? Mackenzie Scott, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, Melinda Gates. I mean, these are the most beautiful humanitarian ever, philanthropists. Oh, I want to grow up to be like them. You know, the kind of money that they provide in order to solve problems. So you got to find the people that you admire and then stick with that so that you can be empowered with that.
Makes sense. So in your opinion, in living life, what is the biggest mistake people make with their health?
Thinking that they can totally mistreat the body and the organs and the brain and live a long life and be healthy when they're 80 years old. You have to start young. My liver, I have a little joke, and my friends love to hear this joke. I'd like to grow up to be a comedian someday, so I have all these little funny stories. But the one that I like to say all the time, if I had known that there was a limit to all the alcohol that I could drink this life, I wouldn't have drank it all by the time I was 38 years old. You know? And so I abused my body with alcohol. It was just what you did, right? Really. And I was working on myself the whole time. I mean, I stopped at 38. I started working on myself at 26. So I had been working on myself for 12 years, but you couldn't go anywhere without people giving you cases of very strong tequila and other drinks and things and celebrating you doing all these things. And it almost destroyed my liver. And it was like, that was my wake-up call. And then I found out that alcohol creates all kinds of wrinkles. You know, I see people with a million wrinkles, and I go, did you drink a lot? I still drink. I go, okay, I'm just curious, because it dries up your body, it dries up your organ. So my liver condition in 1988, at 38 years old, March 14, when I quit drinking, was a wake-up call for me. And even though I had acupuncture, I had already had rolfing, so my body had already been strained out quite a bit. I had done quite a bit of work. It was from then that I began to choose a whole other lifestyle, understanding how fast life goes, and also understanding that many of us that live past 1970 and you were under 40 years old and didn't smoke, your life expectancy is 135 years old. That's a prediction that Buckminster Fuller made in the 30s. He made 50 predictions. 49 of them have come true, and that's the last one. So I figured, listen, if whatever technology is coming, whatever's going to happen, is going to have me live to be 135 years old, I want to be in good shape. And I made that commitment, and I made that decision. And yes, I still am very naughty around bread and pizza, but there's a whole bunch of things that I don't do, like sugar drinks and all kinds of things. So I chose to be healthy. And once you choose to be healthy, then your whole world changes.
Yeah, it's physical health affects everything else. Don't you agree? I mean, everything.
Everything.
People they said, well, eat clean and spiritually I'm connected, but your body needs maintenance too. It needs that cardio. It needs the weightlifting. It needs to be moving. A lot of people today sit behind a computer or scroll on social media. They don't get exercise. I know when I grew up in the 80s, I'm 53 years old, Doria, and I used to go outside and play street hockey, basketball, football, because there was no video games really back in the 80s other than Atari, right? But now, like, my son is 25 years old, but I talk to friends that have young kids, it's all they do is social media, and they're out of shape. They have no drive to play sports. They don't want to go outside and play basketball or play kickball. And it's sad where we came from as a generation in the 80s and 70s and 60s that we wanted to be outside. These kids want to be on a phone all day long, attached to a screen. I was at the mall the other day, Doria, and this kid probably was around 17, walked across the street without even looking where the traffic was because he was so glued to his phone.
Well, I know.
It is crazy. I'm like, this kid just walking in the oncoming traffic, didn't care in the world because he was too busy texting. It's crazy. Anyways, so let's make this simple for people that's listening. And I got a couple questions I want to shoot off to you. So one habit people should start immediately, number one. One habit people should eliminate. And one mindset shift that changes everything. What do you think?
Okay. But it's not just one, but we'll start. I definitely, if I have to choose just one, it's meditate. You have to meditate twice a day. There's no question about it. It allows for your brain to rest a little, and you have to be trained in something, not just start meditating by yourself. I'm a transcendental meditation, a TM practitioner now for 16 years, have never missed a meditation twice a day, just wouldn't. I brush my teeth, I meditate. Same thing. So meditation, if I were to choose one. In regards to a habit,
Yep. Should eliminate. They should eliminate. What habit? One habit you think people should eliminate?
uh, the addiction to suffering.
What do you mean by that?
There's a lot of people that are addicted to suffering. They, instead of looking for solutions, they'd rather be living in a conversation and repeating over and over again the terrible things that happen to them all the time. And they begin to activate that law of attraction that now, because they keep talking about it, and they get so many endorphins, they get all of these chemicals going on their bodies when they tell the story over and over and over again. So I learned that one from my boyfriend who was killed, Larry, my beautiful Larry, my angel. Without him, I never would have taken the life that I have now. So he saved me. But I used to tell the story over and over and over again. And that was from 1968. It wasn't until about 78, 79, 11 years later, that somebody said, stop telling the story about Larry. I am sure we have no doubts how horrific it was for you. But you have got to stop telling the story, because you keep going back and re-anchoring the sadness and the pain, the loss. So I began, and then somebody, I think it might have been Sandra Ray, and then when I studied Sai Baba and the Course in Miracles, I'm in a constant state of, just as much as I learn about business, I learn about spirituality. I began to see that addiction to suffering, and I began to just notice. So you can just step back and notice how, instead of just being really happy about the most simple things, I was just so upset, hurt, and angry about things that didn't even matter that much. So and I could feel all these chemicals in my body, and that I was addicted to it, and many people are addicted to it. I mean, not my close friends, because I choose my close friends very wisely, but a lot of students, a lot of people around me, and I make them aware of that, and quite a few begin to see their addiction to suffering.
If somebody's tuning in right now, and the question would be, what mind shift or mindset should they start practicing now to help them change their way of thinking? Is there a practical tool, or is there a type of nuance that they should do, or is there something they can put to use right away?
Well, you have to work on yourself. You have to be, if I may give them a gift, if they go to fridayswithdoria.com and they download under resources the magical exercises, you have to become aware. Let's just handle money. Since I have a program called Money and You and a business school for entrepreneurs, let's just talk about money and business for a minute, because that is such a thing that brings so much suffering to so many people.
Yeah.
You really need to understand the history, your internal history around money, wealth, finances, and your judgments of anything related to money. Okay? So if you resent leaders, if you resent rich people, if you resent those people around you that became more successful than you, then of course you're going to hesitate to be that successful, because you're going to think that people are judging you. Like, there's this really common belief that when you get really successful or rich, that everybody's going to try to take you down and it's going to knock you down. That's not true. That's not necessarily true. But if you believe that, then of course that's going to happen. So first, you must clear yourself. You have to do ho'oponoponos. You have to do the spiritual work, and you have to do the self-mastery work, so that you really get to know yourself. And then the discipline becomes moment to moment to moment. So when you feel that scarcity, so We live in a world of scarcity. All of our systems, financial system, banking system, health systems, prison system, educational system, are all based on scarcity, on the Malthusian theory of economics, which the job of a government or an institution is to manage scarce resources. So of course we are like totally feeling scarcity. So when you are trying to become abundant and be an abundant person, you cannot skip. You cannot go from lack, from scarcity directly to abundance. You have to understand and practice sufficiency. That's the one thing. So what the sufficiency looks like, when you get really like your tummy goes, when you don't have enough money, when you don't have enough love, when you don't have enough time, when you don't have enough health, when you don't have enough water, enough whatever, enough. So it's like more. You now experience, really go deep into that fear of scarcity and then transform it right at that moment and just go, I am now grateful for this computer. I'm grateful for technology. I'm grateful for meeting you. I'm grateful for the ability to reach all these people. I'm grateful for this beautiful, healthy tea that keeps me healthy. I'm grateful for this beautiful home that I've lived in for 38 years with 180-degree ocean view in San Diego. I'm grateful for the shower. I'm grateful for the water. I'm grateful. Immediately, you cannot be too long in a state of misery when you're becoming to activate the gratitude energy inside your heart, which we all have. If there's one thing you should do every day, is that. And just like, even when you don't believe it, it's like you just have to start talking grateful, and immediately, and walk and jump or do whatever. And just remember, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, we launched their careers. Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad was my business partner for 9 years. This is what we did with him. He was around us for 17 years. And so this was a constant conversation where we would support each other in reminding ourselves how blessed we were, that there was 1 billion people that don't have running water. There's more than that don't have a toilet. There's more than that don't have electricity and clean medicines. So we live in a privileged world that we have a lot to be thankful for. That is the discipline.
Yeah, wow. That's when you put it in those terms, you are thankful that what you have is enough when you think it's not, right? When you do acquire that, hey, I want that new car, or you acquire what you want and you get it, it wasn't a big deal to begin with, right? It just, people accumulate stuff because society has us programmed to accumulate stuff when you should be accumulating experiences and memories with the people that you care about and love, right? So what does living at a prime standard mean to you?
Living
at a prime standard mean to you?
Prime standard?
Yeah. Like, what's your standards? Like, what's your prime standard? What's the most important thing to you?
Absolute freedom. So that's why I handle my financial freedom very young. And also I don't have the connection to money that most people do because of the loss that I had. I had so much loss. So freedom, being clear on your values. So for me, freedom, and also having beautiful homes with a view. So our home on Maui, until Mama got COVID and not got COVID, but during the COVID, pandemic closed down, she got dementia. So we moved back to San Diego full time. And I've been living in this place since 1986, owned it since 1989. So it's exquisite. So I could live in a really big house in another big area of San Diego. It's called Rancho Santa Fe. It doesn't have a view of the ocean, and it has a lot of snakes, and it's a lot of traffic. No thanks. I want to live on the beach. Live below your means, so that when things like COVID comes, you are not going to be caught and lose everything and not have the same standard of living. It's very important to live below your means. And so you use that extra money for building economic engines that will create more money for you, capital for you. Being surrounded by healthy people that are practicing self-mastery. I I require that people are very aware that everything, all the feelings that they have is happening within them. If they are so thin-skinned that I will say the dumbest things that has nothing to do with them, and they take it personally and think that I just offended them when I just met them in the last year or two, that has nothing to do with me. I just opened up this wound without even knowing about it, without thinking about it, out of something that I said. I need really strong, emotionally healthy people that know that everything is happening within them. And more than anything else, they have to be of service and they have to be committed to solving a problem. All my friends are extraordinary human beings. They are the most beautiful human beings on the planet. They could all win Nobel Prizes because they're so committed to the betterment of humanity. And we just purr like little cats together as we are just solving problems, because we have a job to do. We came to this world to do a job. And we're all given, and each human being is an experiment. And the experiment is, can you live a life of value? We're students of Buckminster Fuller, who said, he asked us this question. He died in 1983. But before he left, and years prior to that, he asked this question: how do we make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without any ecological offense or the disadvantage of anyone? So when you create product and services and methods of bringing information, and here I would like to acknowledge you, Jack. We never really met before. It's such a pleasure to meet you, and you are adding value by bringing people that they never would have met, like me, to give your audience information that could be very useful to them. So you are on the path of a well-lived life, especially around, your promotions of all the healthy, lifestyle that you teach. So congratulations. See, you could be a friend.
Thank you.
Because you're working on something much higher than you, because I'm pretty sure that you don't have to be doing this.
No, I have a purpose. My purpose is, when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at the age of 15 years old, this was back in 1988, I was diagnosed. My family, a family of immigrants. My mom was born in Portugal, my dad was born in Portugal. So they came over relatively young, separately, and met in America, met in Boston. And they got married at 20 and 19 years old, and they had 3 kids. And I'm the oldest. I'm 53 today. But I was diagnosed with Crohn's in 1988. And you can imagine, Doria, at 15 years old, there is no social media, there's no internet. The only way you found information is you have to go get a library card, go to the library and pull a book, right, to research anything. But Crohn's was a unique and new type of disease that was unheard of at that time. And you can imagine, when I got the diagnosis, sitting in the office in Boston, and the doctor says, you have Crohn's disease. And I look at him and I go, what is Crohn's disease? And I look at my mom, and she doesn't understand English that well because she's an immigrant. She looked at me, what does that mean? He goes, well, there's no cure for it. You have to take medication for the rest of your life, and we'll try to control your symptoms. So when I went home, my mom and dad don't really speak English at that time, nor they understand it. I had no comfort. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm a kid, I'm 15 years old. I'm a sophomore in high school. I have a budding soccer career. Maybe going to go pro at some point playing soccer. And all of a sudden that was taken away from me. So I had to figure out, how do I fix this? Because if I don't, I'm going to be a sick person, physically and mentally, because I played sports my whole life. And I was outside person. I like to be around people. I was social. And now all of a sudden I'd be stuck to a bed and I couldn't go out and play with my friends, couldn't go to school, couldn't go to events, movie theaters, mall. I'm like, I had this problem. And I came to a point where it looked like I didn't want to live, and I realized I got to fix my mentality at that age. And so what happened is I started reading magazines, bodybuilding magazines, fitness magazines. And I would see Arnold Schwarzenegger on the covers. And I'm like, man, I want to look like that. But I was so malnourished, 40 pounds underweight, very sick looking, had no strength. And I'm like, how do I look like that? And I saw before and after pictures. I'm like, man, if this guy can be 200 pounds or 150 pounds and look like that, what could that do for me? And so I started reading the magazine. I'm like, protein shakes and weight gainers and amino acids and nutrients. And I'm like, wait, I got to read all this stuff. I'm like, maybe I could start doing that, because as a digestive disease, you can't digest food. So I couldn't gain weight. I couldn't feel healthy. So started asking my dad for money for weight gainer, protein shakes, and started eating all the stuff and drinking protein shakes, drinking weight gainers and amino acids and vitamin D. And I go, Dad, can I have a membership to Bally's Fitness? He got me a membership, and I started working out. And all of a sudden I started gaining weight and I get a little puffier. I'm like, oh, this looks good. I'm like, the girls are starting to pay attention to my body. And it was hiding my disease. And it gave me an opportunity where, hey, wait a minute, fitness, health can overcome the way I look. Because I was afraid to anybody at school to find out I was sick, because kids are cruel. They'll make fun of you. And I didn't want to be made fun of. So between the age of 15 and when I graduated school, I was considered the top athlete in soccer and started into fitness training. And people will come up to me for fitness advice, and strongest kid in the school because of fitness. So my purpose of having a channel was people that got diagnosed with chronic illnesses, Crohn's, or IBDS, or colitis. They think it's over. They really think in their mind that they can't chase after sports. They can't live a normal life. I was guest speaking at a medical expo back in 2014 in Las Vegas with about 100 children under the age of 15 years old with their parents. And I was on stage giving a if you want to call it a review of my life, where I started at 15 years old to where I am at that point, where I competed in bodybuilding and fitness shows, and I played professional football, and I've had businesses, I've been married, I have a child, and these kids are looking at me and they're like, how do I look like him? But when I show them pictures of me at 15 years old and 16, they're like, I look like you, but how do I look like Jack at 45? Because I'm now 53. And they would come up to you, he goes, can we touch your muscles? And they were trying to literally touch me. I'm like, I want to look like you, Mr. Jack. How do I do that? I'm sick. I don't want to eat. I don't feel good. My mom says you're fine. And Dad says I'll be fine. All they want is somebody to understand them that can actually live the life they're living. And so when I started seeing the change in these kids' eyes, where I can look like Jack, or I can be successful in business, or I can play pro sports, I can be married, I can have a child, it gave them so much hope. And it just warmed my heart that my story would actually move people to go into fitness and look at their health. Because when a doctor tells you take a pill, or hey, doctor says you can't work out, or doctor says you will never be the same, it's devastating, especially at a young age.
Yeah.
So when I started seeing that movement where it's moving the needle on these young kids, I started to start a group, like advocacy for children that wanted fitness and health, and ended up becoming a big following with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. I was on the board for them. I started providing chapters in local cities for support for local people that need health and addiction with drugs or alcohol because of their disease. And I just shared my story and wanted to pass that knowledge, is that, hey, we all have shame. We all have failures, divorce, loss of job, business failures. But at the end of the day is that if you can face your shame and you can tell people, hey, I learned from that, and I can learn from something like that, it changes people. And I'll share you one story that made me where I am today. I've been very successful in life. Everything I've done because Crohn's gave me a purpose. That I need to not use that as a crutch to say, I don't feel like working today. I don't feel like going to school. I don't feel like studying because I have Crohn's disease. I didn't use that as an excuse. I used that as an opportunity for me to be better at someone that's healthier. And what it led to me was a story back on Facebook that happened in 2015. I had a mother reach out to me, Doria, and she was in New York. I was in Las Vegas at the time, and said her child was thinking about committing suicide. He had Crohn's disease really bad, and he didn't want to live anymore. And also, you got to be careful when you give advice, right? In this world today, it's crazy how things happen. She asked me if I would speak to him because he has no purpose now. She said, you watch my Facebook video, you watch my pictures, my bodybuilding, he really would like to talk to you. So I called him up and we had a long discussion, and he was close to a point where he didn't want to live anymore, where he felt like I'm always in the hospital, I'm always sick, no girl's gonna be attracted to me, I can't play sports. I mean, so obviously I talked him through my experience where I am today and said, just give me some time and let's just talk it out. We talked for about 6 months, and I started getting him in the gym, getting on the treadmill, started working out. And before he knew it, within a year, he gained 20 pounds. He was out and about playing sports. He emailed me, I think a year later after that, and said he has a girlfriend now, and he thanked me. And his mom says, if you didn't interject with him, he would not be here today. Your story alone gave my son purpose, and he's now passed that purpose and your story to other people that are struggling with it. So that is my purpose, to share that experience, because it could change someone's life or save someone's life. And it did, and it really did. So you have a lot for my readers to.
So this is a good example, though, for people that suffer for no reason because they don't have a fancy car, they don't have this and that. I always tell people, you have perfect health. You have all your abilities, and you need to go into facilities and hospitals, go and volunteer. Whenever I actually tell people that when they're whinging a lot or complaining a lot, I go, you need to go be of service somewhere and go find people that are less fortunate, that they really are suffering. I'm not, when I was talking about suffering earlier, an addiction to suffering, I wasn't talking about people that have conditions. I'm talking about all of these self-created out of pure entitlement and spoil and just thinking that we should have a certain life and in a certain way. There are people who have, and that you have these debilitating conditions, and people have cancer, people have lost people. I understand real suffering, and thank you for making that clear in case anybody misunderstood me a little bit earlier, because I wasn't talking to someone like that. But look at that, look at you. I mean, that's so beautiful. I mean, I'm just really happy for you, because having a purpose is one of the key things that we teach. Purpose, mission, clear rules of the game. And, for 3.5 days, people come and do an entrepreneurial program that teaches them how to create wealth, but also teaches them how to manage and how to release that which is holding them back from making mistakes, because we all learn from making mistakes. So, well, I hope that I was able to serve you and your audience.
Doria, thank you for your time, and I appreciate everything you share with us. And amazing career that you had, and obviously you still have a lot more to do and what you want to do. And by God, I'm sure that we all can make a difference some way, somehow. And it doesn't have to be monetarily. It can be just time is more precious than money, right? And so if people can sit there and be human to each other and stop this infighting about what we have and we don't have, and say, life is about purpose and serving a greater need, I think we'd be in a better place. But I do appreciate your time, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Aloha. Thank you so much for having me with you.
Thank you,
Aloha.
Doria.
Bye, everyone.
Aloha. Bye.
Bye-bye.
This is the Jack Lima Podcast. For more resources to support your growth, visit the Prime 40 website. Until next time, stay focused and keep doing the work. Thanks for watching.